Welcome to the Hope While You Go
You ready to
combos. Yeah, wherever you feel comfortable. Hope you all are feeling well today. It's a rainy, kind of yucky day in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It is washing away the pollen, so that's something. I guess there's always something to find a little positive angle on it.
For sure. Years ago in CBS Bible study in Los Angeles, a sweet friend in one of my first groups post-stroke said, if you look for it, there is a blessing in every storm of your life. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the blessing of the rain is it's washing away the pollen.
That's true. Sometimes you gotta look a little harder to find the blessing, but
for sure,
they're there. And today we are going to be continuing this conversation of redefining, again, in the midst of this sort of collective reset experience, struggle of limitation. We found this idea of how we suffer strong, how we are redefined to be really more relevant maybe than ever for a larger demographic of us than ever. It's always true, but I think we don't always have the awareness of how much we need a redefining of everything.
Yeah.
And so that's what these conversations have been about, sharing very specific experiences and topics that we've redefined over the past 12 years almost since our life was upended. How that upended life has given us this new understanding of the upside down kingdom. And we pray it encourages you and maybe gives you some practical things to think about during this time as we enter into this new normal. And the reality is suffering births us into new people.
Yeah.
And we're all on different spectrums of our struggle. Frankly, there's so much good perspective for all of us to gain in this season where we've been put out, where our plans have been canceled and changed. Probably if you're able to sit here and watch a live stream, you're doing pretty well relative to most of the world. So that's a helpful context just to remember. And yet, I'm sure there's some struggle and some suffering. And the reality is this season of suffering will birth us into new people, a new human race, a new church, a new society and country. And that doesn't have to be the worst thing. In fact, it can be a new thing. And the reality is, it is the thing. So we have to choose what we're going to do with it. Are we going to get on board, or we're going to try to kind of swim back upstream to the past? It's not possible. So that's kind of what we're about together. And anyway, we today are redefining beauty, which seems kind of random. And maybe you're expecting a beauty tutorial, like one of his hair tutorials.
Yeah.
Makeup.
I don't do that, so no.
Fashion blogging? No.
No, not so much.
Not able. Well, we will, not try to go there today. But what we will acknowledge is that, each one of us has some sort of longing, this deep longing, to come face to face with true beauty. We have a deep longing to be known and to be loved and to be seen.
Right.
And so I think that longing for beauty is a good thing. And it's a deep and it's a holy longing. So often it's filtered through our own brokenness and through our own projected sort of in our own image rather than being face to face with the beauty of God in front of us. And so I think the reality is during even this time of reset, we're still struggling with some of the same stuff we all struggle with. It's not like it just put everything in a perfect perspective and now we're starting over with some fresh new eyes or lens. Like we're all, just ourselves.
That is true to a degree, but there also is some things that you go through. I mean, similarly in my own story, where you do emerge different afterwards.
Of course.
And that is the opportunity, of course.
No, I'm hoping we do. I'm just saying, you probably still look in the mirror today and we're not like, wow, in the bigger scheme of the world suffering, like who cares about this extra weight or these pounds or whatever. We're still, my point is we're still,
of course,
going through our stuff. And yet we think there's an opportunity, again, like you're saying, to come out on the other side of this with a different sense. And we love that quote. I think it's originally from C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. Rick Warren sort of did his own take on it. But it's that we really shouldn't be thinking less of ourselves. We should just be thinking of ourselves less. And what that means is just sometimes there's such a focus on the appearance, the self, how we're feeling. And again, we shouldn't down ourselves or sort of self, what is it? Flagellate?
Yeah.
Not flagellate. Flagellate? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah.
Like down ourselves, like we're created in God's image. there's incredible things about us. We should be affirming and loving of ourselves, and it's a good thing. But
Yeah.
sometimes we just focus a little too much on ourselves. Maybe I'm guilty of that. Maybe you are too. I don't know. So just sort of thinking of ourselves a little less.
But so is the beginning of that quote true beauty is, or did I make that up
I
because
think
we
that
put
was
it
your
in the beauty chapter and
quote.
it's so what's the beginning?
I think it's just this idea. It's humility. It's about humility.
Yes, which actually strangely is tied into beauty.
Sure.
In a lot of really fascinating ways, because a true posture of humility isn't insecurity or arrogance. It's just thinking less of me. It's just not about this as much. It's not so self-focused.
You're confident in who you are. You're filled up by the love of God, by the love of people around you, by the love that you have for yourself, and confidence in yourself so much you don't have to try so hard to think about how you're putting on a certain facade or what other people are thinking about you, and constantly trying to kind of process that. I'm looking right behind us at a picture. That's a portrait. I don't know if you can see it. It's a family portrait, and it's a line drawing, and it's really cool because it's like an uninterrupted.
Facebook can't, Instagram can't. I don't think.
Well, you can kind of see it.
We'll
post a picture, but it kind of represents this idea. Like that was taken the last Sunday we were in LA. Catherine preached the final sermon there. It was looking very beautiful, but the reality is, nobody's really looking at you. I bet you spent a lot of time on your hair, and frankly, now the way we remember that is with a line drawing. And I think that's kind of a metaphor. Like if you're like, wait, what did I wear yesterday? Or like, you think, much less you think about somebody else. What were they doing? How did they present? Nobody knows. Nobody's paying attention that much. They're really just looking at yourself. You know what I mean? Themselves.
Yeah.
And so much of our effort, I think, is to present something outwardly. It's not even about doing it for us. I mean, that's one thing if you're, again, getting healthy, you're wanting to shower during this time of craziness and put on, actual clothes instead of pajamas, which that's a good thing, I think, mentally, for doing it for yourself. But if you're really constantly thinking about the outward perception, I just think that it's a real slippery slope.
Yeah.
And the reality is it's pretty pointless because most of the time nobody's really tracking as much as you think they are.
Right. There's been so much freedom for me in fairly recent years in recognizing that no one's really looking at me anyway.
The invisible other that I
they're like worried about themselves, if anything, or they're just not super hyper observant of my clothes or my hair or my makeup or something. It's just not as important as the world makes it.
And I think so much of all of this thinking is about upending, right? And so it seemed very fitting. We talk about this in our book. Catherine was a model, actress, all these things, that are kind of esteemed in some way by our society.
Let's clarify.
Go ahead. Clarify.
Okay, so yes, model, but not like fashion model, like not real modeling. I mean, it was
Target.
It wasn't real modeling, but it was Disney catalogs, and it was not like a big deal.
So kind of my point is like you were going on this path, then all of that was turned upside down. You had a stroke, it changed everything. Then years later, the American Stroke Association tapped Catherine to be the face of this campaign that they did, this huge campaign. It was like $100 million of free advertising through the Ad Council of America to get out this public service announcement about the signs of stroke, okay?
Yeah.
And it was called the FAST campaign, F-A-S-T, and it was the different signs of stroke. FAST, F, facial droop, A, arm weakness, S, speech slurring, T, time. So in other words, if you're experiencing those things, you've got to get to the hospital quickly because you're having a stroke. So Catherine was the face, and a lot of the ads actually just had you, and then FAST, and it was in Times Square in New York. It was on billboards and buses. I think to this day it is still.
No.
On a side note, the agreement was only through 2018. So we're just saying, anybody knows any American Stroke Association people?
Yeah, American Stroke Association. If you're watching this, reach out to us.
We're happy it's been helpful.
We can possibly.
But let's be legal about it, okay?
To give funds to our camp for families with disabilities. If you want to pay me, pay our camp. Also,
maybe people want to know about the face of the campaign. And maybe you want to point people that suffer strong. I hope heals. Anyway, what was so cool, though, is that was by far Catherine's most successful modeling campaign.
Seriously.
And I think to that same end, kind of like our invisible wheelchairs, maybe the limitations being an opportunity for us to clarify and focus and being the avenue for our flourishing.
Right.
What if sort of the upending of what we think is this avenue towards beauty and affirmation and aspiration,
Right.
the upending of that is actually the way. Through our weakness, there's the most strength available when God is in the middle of it. And so I think just that's, for us, has been a really profound reminder.
Right.
Again, in this upended life, there can be this sense of the upside down kingdom like never before. So,
Right.
for whatever that's worth, just be encouraged by that today. That, again, it looks like the end, but it doesn't mean it's the end. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's the beginning of a whole new, bigger story
Yeah.
and a better one. And last thing about, I don't know, social media, it's just cropping up to my mind, but that sort of distinction between inspiration and aspiration, while we're talking about the digital age, everybody's really receiving a lot of content. There's a lot, in a visual and a social age that's curated and edited, that really is intended to be aspirational. Aspiration means I want to aspire to that. I see this highlight reel of people's lives, and it looks beautiful. It looks really like something I'd want, and I wish I could have. And the problem with aspirational is that few times do we actually get there to what we aspire to, and so
Right.
it kind of ends up making us feel ashamed. And I think we've said true beauty is walking away from shame. So often the things that are aspirational content so often lead us not to true beauty but to shame.
Right.
And I think the question becomes, who is telling you the story of beauty? And I'm sorry to be talking about this, but I think as a male, it's helpful to, men have plenty of issues with beauty and appearance, and more often we just need to be a part of the positive conversation, I think, and help in that regard. But all of us need to ask, who is the one telling us the story about ourselves, about our beauty, about our worth, about how loved we are, about our failures, all this, that's important. Who is narrating that story to you? And so anyway, I think instead of aspirational, and this is all of us. I mean, before we click post on an Instagram or whatever, we really run it through the filter. Is this going to be helpful to the world? Is this going to be part of the healing of the people who come across it? Or is it going to be hurtful to them in some ways? Is it going to help them sort of think that they have to aspire to a life and love a life that is not their own?
Right.
So I would encourage all of us, before you hit send,
Right.
before you
Seriously.
hit post, is this aspirational? Are you trying to feel more valuable and worthy of strangers and ultimately make them feel worse about their own lives? Are you inspiring them to love their own life, to find truth, to find something deeper and richer about their own struggles? And so I think that's just an opportunity to all get, especially in this ramped up time of digital age.
Seriously.
To
Yeah,
think before we
Who knows?
post.
Maybe it's all going to go dark one day and that social media won't be a thing anymore. But for now, at least, let's be, just wiser with how we consider posting. Not just, obviously, let's all stop the weird political rantings, etc. But even, we are conscious and really want others to be of how something will make someone else feel. Like if we're on a vacation, we're not going to post this beautiful, fabulous place we are at
View from the office.
11 a.m. on a Tuesday when 99% of people in the world who might see our Instagram post are at their cubicle at work. Because that just makes them feel kind of yucky and sad. Like they're missing out. And of course, you can take that to extremes and be paranoid, but you also can just be kind and thoughtful and maybe not I'm just tripping over my words because I don't want this to come off differently than I mean it. So,
No, I think we're kind of supposed to be vulnerable with every single thing and share every single thing, and like that's not true vulnerability. That's just sort of vomiting out everything.
yeah.
And I think sometimes it's better to just think and edit and is this going to be helpful or hurtful? And I think we all just whatever lens we're looking at today, like just is this adding to somebody being inspired to love their life where they're at, or is aspiring to a life that is not their own? Is this adding to the healing of the world and the encouragement of the world and the edification of the world? Or is this just sort of a project trying to make me feel better about myself?
Right.
To the
For
detriment
sure.
of somebody else. Anyway,
For sure.
little soapbox moment. And again, nobody's doing that perfectly. We're trying. hopefully you're trying to.
Well, and for another quick soapbox moment,
Yeah.
So for some reason, it's just hugely important to me in this moment to say, like, people are lonely. If you are able to watch this, you're probably able to also make a phone call, and
Sure.
I don't mean a text message because that's not going to help with the loneliness factor nearly as much as like hearing a voice and letting someone then use their own voice for a moment that they maybe haven't used in many days.
Sure.
So not just a text message, guys, but maybe pick up the phone, FaceTime if you can, talk to a human being for literally like 2 minutes. Especially people who are living alone right now. This is what, I mean, going on like 10 days of possibly having no contact with anyone.
A lot of older folks. I mean, let's be honest.
A lot of older people. And yeah, we both have talked to our grandfathers, living grandfathers. His is 91, mine is 95. And it was so wonderful and so important to connect. And we FaceTimed both of them, and it was just glorious to get our kids in front of that camera, phone, and let them just have, like, seriously, a minute of conversation with them.
And I think it helps some of them, too. I mean, it's a stereotype, but most are not super tech up to speed. I mean, we're not either, let's be real. It was kind of cool to help Aunt Red learn how to work her FaceTime for the first time, so that was really sweet. And I think it dovetails because a lot of this talk about redefining beauty is also about redefining aging, and I think, the place that we put in our hierarchy of values or societal hierarchy of values of people who are older is at the bottom. Right. Because this age denying culture is also youth obsessed, and thus it devalues the wisdom of age, the honor of age, and the fact that, look, all of these folks who are down the road in their journey a bit have been through some things. And I think about, the folks in the greatest generation who are near the end of their chapters of life have some of the most profound stories, and it's because of the overcoming they've experienced. And how much do we all need those stories right now? Like, how much do we need to know that people, 50, 60 years ago lived through hell and war and kept going?
Right.
And the wisdom that they have. And can we tap into that instead of saying, you're, dispensable now because you can't offer anything, or we just want to push you over here to the side. And but to say, wow, you've been through things. You've seen this arc of history. We want to honor you. We want to learn from you. We want your wisdom. We want to encourage you too. And the reality we found about aging that I love, just to encourage you, maybe again, despite all this, you're feeling old. You're feeling frustrated. You're feeling the wrinkles or whatever. I mean, doesn't just stop. We're human, and we're looking in mirrors and whatever. Yeah. And, getting out of bed with creaky old bodies, we get it. But right now, you are the youngest that you will be.
Right.
Right now.
This moment,
you are the youngest you will be.
Yeah.
From now on. Okay? And you're also the closest you will be to heaven. So both of those...
You're the closest you've ever been.
Closest you've ever been.
Yeah, the closest.
Newsflash, tomorrow you'll be the youngest you've ever been and the closest to heaven. But so what that says is, in this present moment, we're not fearful of aging. We're not obsessed with the past and the youth. What we're owning the moment, the present moment, where we are, what we've been through, and now what we will go towards, and living in that. And I think just honoring the folks who are ahead of us on this journey is so critical, and so much to give and so much to learn from them, especially during this time. So call your people, and more than that, call the people who don't have people, and connect and find ways for people to feel less alone during this time.
Once we got married in 2004 and then moved to California pretty promptly afterwards, my maternal grandmother, my mom's mother, Amanda, who was one of my very best friends in the world, she and I would talk every other day for all the years until my stroke. And then once I could speak again, we would talk maybe once a week. It was a lot harder for her to understand. And then slowly, as she developed Alzheimer's, it was really hard for her to process, and it embarrassed her. It kind of got sad, but particularly before I had the stroke, and we would talk every other day, she would tell me that it was the highlight of her life was getting those conversations, and we talked for 45 minutes most of the time, and it was cute. My grandmother was a huge note writer, and I am too. And we didn't have a lot of money when we first got married. We're like both newlyweds and loving it, but broke. And she would send me stamps to send out cards, and she would just sign them, "Love the Stamp Fairy," and like a lot of stamps were given to me through the years. And I would say, speaking of Amanda's Alzheimer's and decline, I don't want to like start sobbing every time, but as Amanda's mind slowly went, there was something very, very, very beautiful about her lack of focus on her appearance. And first time of her life, I think, definitely in my lifetime that I'd ever seen it, I imagine it was the first, that she was no longer obsessed with how she looked, and she would put her eye makeup on her lips or her lipstick above her eyes or whatnot, and very childlike, and it was so freeing for her. I can't imagine. She couldn't articulate necessarily towards the end, but the freedom that she felt was obvious because she wasn't consumed and petrified about what people were thinking about her, but instead she was just enjoying life and just not as...
Maybe seeing the world and the beauty around her for the first time in some ways too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the chance that we get maybe in this season to reset a little bit, to not worry quite so much about what we're facing outward and what we're presenting, our appearance, some of these things that are fading and that we can't really control that much anyway. And in focusing less on that, we get to maybe see the world in a new way, see a deeper, truer, transcendent beauty in a new way. And anyway, I think that's the hope, because there's a lot of beauty in the midst of struggle and pain right now, and we don't want to miss it. And so let's open our eyes and see.
I wanted to read this verse from Isaiah 46:4. Says, "I will be your God throughout your lifetime. Until your hair is white with age, I made you, and I will care for you. I will carry you along and save you." That's Isaiah 46, verse 4.
I love that.
I do too.
He will.
He will. God bless you guys. Stay encouraged.
Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow at noon. Reach out. SufferStrong.com for more info on all of this. And if you want to send a free copy of our book to somebody who would really benefit from it during this time, we'd love to do that.
Yes.
Lots of free copies. So thanks for doing that. Go to SufferStrong.com.
Yes, please do. We'd love that.
Bye,
God
friends.
bless y'all.
Love ya. Bye-bye.